Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good night. This is Arrow Flame here to give you all yet another video all within the span of a single calendar year. Today we're going to sit down and address the entire Surfbone situation from start to finish. This whole situation has been going on for far too long, and I believe that it is time that we put the whole thing to rest once and for all. I feel as though if I were to sit back and let this sort of situation go on, let it perpetuate itself within the community, the fallout for that would be disgusting. The way this sort of mindset can permeate into the day-to-day life is beyond a shadow of a doubt despicable, and despite all of the flack that I'm catching, I will not let this go. Because if I let it go, I feel as though no one will do anything about this. Because if I don't, who will? Now, the very first thing that I'd like to talk about is my motivations for doing this, and the accusations that have fallen upon me in regards to bringing the Surfbone situation back up again. Noodles and a lot of my detractors like to publicly claim that I am simply doing this for clout, or that I'm clout chasing, or I'm just trying to humiliate Surfbone. Well, that's the farthest thing from the truth. Well, that's the farthest thing from the truth. See, when Surfone originally told his story in front of a crowd of 96 people on Discord, the crowd wanted him gone and thrown out because of the trial. They felt as though, based on the things that was presented, and based on the story that he told them, that he was possibly guilty of rape. They were going to do everything that they could to try and find his information, dox him, send him threats, harass him, etc. And it was actually me and my friend True who did what we could in order to get him out of there and out of that situation. Surfbone, in fact, thanks me and True for what we did, as he had absolutely no way to prove that he wasn't a rapist. He was completely at a loss, and there was nothing that he could do except be left to the whim of a crowd that was angry about the fact that they all believed that he had raped someone. When we saw what was going to happen to Surfbone, we told him to lie to everyone and say the entire story was not true and to leave Discord. We felt it was the best way to put this situation behind us, and I must admit, I felt a little bad about what was going on. A lot of people don't seem to remember the fact that me and Surfbone were friends before this whole thing went down, and it was pretty much me having to go after my friend for telling a story that made it seem like he raped someone. So, after giving Surfbone this advice and telling him to go, we thought it was all over. However, later on, Noodles and others convinced Surfbone that he could stay, that he had a right to stay, and he was convinced that I had forced a confession out of him. They blatantly began to publicly misrepresent my intentions, even though they all knew I did not do it out of some hatred for Surfbone, but simply because I stood for what I believe is right. And to this day, they continue to publicly misrepresent me. But we'll get more into that later. The next thing we're going to talk about is the fact of things. We're going to talk about what we know, what these things mean, and why I believe that all of these things together point to the fact that Surfbone raped a woman. So, let's take it from the very top.
Fucking bullshit.
Please,
Hey, order in the court, everyone.
order in the court.
Let the witness speak.
If he just said, yeah, I cream pied her, waited 15 minutes, and then cream pied her again, that'd be more believable. But it was like the implication was like, oh, you just one stopping, bro. So, okay. So we're like, oh, how was she drunk? And he's like, yeah, she was in and out. I'm like, in and out? What do you mean in and out? Like, and I was like, but you remember everything?
So, what we have here is directly from the first trial, link to that in the description of the video down below, where Seth the programmer recounts the story that Surfbone told us initially, to support what will be said later on in the video. In the original story that Surfbone told Seth the programmer, and the story that he told to the 96 people in call that day, he said that she was in and out. He indicated that she was unconscious twice, and only when the Noodles video comes out 8 months later does the story magically change to her being conscious. The original 2 times that Surfbone told the story, he indicated that she was unconscious, and it is only after he has had 8 months to playing with Noodles that he comes out with a different story. But hold on, you may be asking. What makes you think, Arrow, that Surfbone is willing to change his story? It's gone on record that Surfbone does not like lying. He's very adamant about that, and that's what you may be thinking. Well,
Everybody stop.
May I call you to the stand?
So, Bleach Up.
Yeah, you can call me to the stand.
So, you've heard what Jade said, the accusation that Jade just made, right?
Can you
Yeah?
repeat that?
You just heard the accusation that Jade just made, right? Can you confirm or deny this?
Jay, can you repeat what you were saying? Just one more time.
I said you told us that whenever like Surfbone left and everything, you said that Surfbone came to you and like you helped him tweak out the uhs and the ums in his message, like the whole paragraph he sent to Seth.
Yeah, I did help him like write out his response to Seth. Yeah.
So, in what context were you helping him write out this response?
I didn't want to give him any of my my own words or like what I would say, but I was basically asking him like, okay, well, what do you want to say? What do you want to get across? And then I was just like, all right. So he'd tell me like, oh, I want to say this, and I'd be like, oh, this is how you would word that, I guess. And then we just made his little message for him. You know.
My point was just that like, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was asking if that was it.
Yeah, because my point was just that like I think that he wanted your help so that he could conform and like compose his answer, because obviously he didn't have one when we were asking him in Seth's server, even though there was it was more accessible to say, yeah, I'm just lying, my bad. Like it would have been better. You can't really say that here without getting clowned now.
Okay,
There's
so
no defense.
Surfbone.
So Surfbone, oh right. Surfbone, what do you have to say to him saying that you were trying to change the messaging to make it sound better for you?
Okay. So yeah. Well, cause fucking Seth like asked me why did I leave, and I didn't want to just say something that would just make me look really bad. So I didn't like ask Bleach Hub to like help me write it out. So I'm getting my point across without like trying to say that. Oh my God, King J, stop fucking messaging me.
Please block him, Jay.
Dude.
Just block him, yeah, block him.
Yeah. Fucking hell. So, yeah. Like, I just asked him to, like, help me, like word this out so I just don't make any, like, wrong, like, sayings.
the ever honest Surfbone admits that he has gone to people to try and change his story to make it look better. To make the story better. As if he was afraid of how it sounds. This indicates to me that Surfbone is completely open to the idea of getting his story tweaked and changing what he was going to say in order to stay out of trouble and to make sure what he is saying doesn't sound too bad. It's a ratty tactic that Surfbone himself admitted to in the clip above, and to say that Surfbone would be unwilling to change his story or lie is simply untrue. So Surfbone has given us 2 separate stories. The first 2 where she was unconscious, and the third one, 8 months later, where she was conscious. Based on Surfbone himself admitting to letting people tweak his story to make it sound better, I believe that it is completely reasonable to believe that he lied. He is lying to make himself look better, as he has done in the past for this exact same situation. Moving on. In the actual video, it legitimately says that, oh, this girl is drunk and throwing up all over the place. We need somewhere to put her, so they put her in his tent.
letting you derail this fucking
okay,
conversation.
TJ, you're calling me a
Wait,
liar, and you're
That's also a
spurging.
lie, though.
So
But-
what did you say?
Okay.
Okay,
Good.
but
Let's get back
I
on-
even specified. Okay.
Wait, no, just tell me what you said.
Okay. am I the one talking or is
Yes,
PJ talking?
Surfbone,
You
you're talking.
correct
Okay.
me and tell
Alright.
me what you said.
Okay. All right. What happened is that we and her were both throwing up all over the place, and they wanted to take her to her bed, but when they got to her mattress, she threw up all over it, and they're like, well, fuck. Now we don't know where to put her, and the only other place that they could put her was in my tent, which was like a 4-person tent. So like, okay, we'll just throw her
That's
there.
what I just said. Spencer,
No.
did I not say she got tossed into his tent?
As
did he
vague
not
as Arrow's
just say-
recollection was, it did coincide with yours, Surfbone.
And did he literally not just like PJ is always calling me a fucking liar,
Okay.
and then his own nigga just recounted it the same way that I did. You're a fucking stupid bitch, PJ.
my-
You
I'm not-
need
I'm
to
not
get
talking,
this
you
nigga's
fucking
nuts
nuts,
out of
dude.
your mouth.
I'm not
So, here we have another reason to believe that Surfbone and the others on his side are rampant liars. As you can see in the clip, I recount the fact that the girl hadn't entered the tent of her own volition, but rather she threw up everywhere and she was tossed into his tent. Surfbone and PJ both jump on me, trying to call me a liar. PJ in chat and Surfbone in VC. And then Surfbone tells the story, which is what I said, albeit I paraphrased ever so slightly. Now, there's two things that you have to pay attention to there. He tried to lie about me lying, which immediately backfired because he knew that if he lied about what he said during the recording, I would simply pull up the recording. And the second thing that he did was admit that the girl didn't even have the facilities to get into the tent on her own, but rather she had to be tossed in by his friends. Meanwhile, Surfbone was still okay enough to navigate to his own tent and completely recall the events of the night. So once again, I have proven Surfbone to be willing to lie in order to try and make himself look better and to try and keep himself out of trouble. And yet he is somehow able to keep his persona of being completely honest and a kind man, despite the fact that he is known for repeatedly lying to large amounts of the community in order to try and make himself look better. But let's get past that. And let's move on to the next and most pressing issue.
Well, yeah, I know, and I'm
So
saying
she
that
Surfbone. So let me just ask you this one last question. Guys, actually, there's one last question. Are you saying that you had sex with a girl who said that she would not have told you yes?
if she was sober because she was in a relationship.
Yes.
Because
She
she was
said
in a
that,
relationship,
but she said that if she were in the right mind, she would have said no.
Right, but again, she was the one that she.
So, in both of these recordings, Surfbone says that the girl would not have had sex with him if she were sober because she had a boyfriend at the time. Now, let's dissect that. So Surfbone says that this girl was so drunk that she made a decision that she would not have made if she were sober. Now, really quick, I'm going to read a certain section of this article that I posted above from justia.com verbatim. A person is prevented from resisting if he or she is so intoxicated that he or she cannot give legal consent. In order to give legal consent, a person must be able to exercise reasonable judgment. In other words, the person must be able to understand and weigh the physical nature of the act, its moral character, and probable consequences. Legal consent is consent given freely and voluntarily by someone who knows the nature of this act. So, by virtue of him constantly admitting that she would not have had sex with him when she was sober, is him admitting that she was not capable of giving consent. From here on, there is absolutely no way for this situation to not be rape unless he had reasonable belief that she wasn't drunk out of her fucking mind. Problem with that is, is that we have already established that this girl was so drunk that she was throwing up on herself. She was tossed into his tent because she had vomited so much that she couldn't sleep in her bed, and she was tossed in because she couldn't walk there herself, and she was going in and out of consciousness due to how drunk she was. There is absolutely no way that he could reasonably believe that she was not impaired. As with all of these signs, it should be obvious to anyone that she is extremely and obviously drunk to the point of impairment. Extreme impairment. Given that this video is intended to be the very last video about Surfbone that I make, along with the last of my comments on this subject as a whole, I will very quickly run down a few defenses that people make in Surfbone's favor and give a rebuttal. The first defense that people always bring up is the fact that Surfbone was drunk as well. In an article written by Sally Vecchiarelli, I'm not sure, who practices law in California, this state that Surfbone lives in, and this is not doxing, because me and Noodles went over this extensively in the debate about it. She confirms that you are still capable of raping someone, even if you are drunk. So that's out of the window. The second defense is that the girl said that it wasn't rape. Simply because she doesn't believe it to be rape does not excuse it. Even if she doesn't consider it to be rape, by virtue of the actions that he performed, it appears to be, regardless of her opinion about the situation or not. It's the same as if a woman is getting punched in the face by her husband every day, but she didn't believe it to be domestic abuse. Her perception does not impact reality at all here. Along with that, she doesn't need to press charges for a conviction. The district or state attorney can press charges themselves, so that's out the window as well. Another defense is that she asked for it, which I've already addressed, that she can't consent still because of the state of her intoxication. So that too does not matter. Ultimately, when you lay all of the cards out on the table, you are able to see the picture that I am trying to paint. There is no point in trying to pretend that this is something else. I believe that Surfbone raped this person, and the facts are completely in my favor, I believe. Those on Surfbone's side will try and lead you to believe that I'm doing this out of some need for clout or for recognition, at least publicly. But privately, both Noodles and Parrot, Surfbone's seemingly biggest advocates, have admitted that they believe that I am doing this because I believe it is what is right and because I believe it is the way to serve justice. What Surfbone and Noodles are trying to do here is manipulation of the highest level, and its effects are far more wide-reaching and destructive than the usual level of rat shit that goes on Discord. This is them trying to convince a huge swath of the community that having sex with a girl that is so drunk that she has fallen unconscious is okay. They're trying to convince people that because I get mad and yell at Noodles and Surfbone about this, that I am an unreasonable, angry, hateful, and vindictive man. But everyone should be as angry as I am. Everyone should feel the same gut-wrenching, heart-burning rage that I feel anytime I hear those two trying to convince other people that what Surfbone did is okay. Because if these people believe that this is okay and repeat that behavior, I would be disgusted. To think that even one person goes out and commits an action like this, something as vile as raping another person, makes me sick to my fucking stomach each and every time I think about it. My name is Arrow Flame, and I have had enough. This is done. These conversations, these back and forths that we have, there's nothing to contest. This behavior is not okay. Thank you.